This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any health or lifestyle changes. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Her podcast, your go-to space for real talk, inspiration, and laughter as we navigate life as a woman. Let's dive in.
All right. Well, hello. Thanks for coming back to the Happy Healthier podcast. I'm Tracey Mail, your host for today. I am a health empowerment coach. I help people heal naturally by focusing on what really matters: nourishing food, daily movement, a calm mind, and deep recovery. Together, these are the keys to lasting health. Today, we're diving into a topic that hits close to home for so many families: ADHD. And your brain's management system, otherwise known as executive functioning in midlife. That's a neat way of saying that. I didn't know that before, so that's good. It's not just kids who are struggling. Women are being diagnosed at higher rates than ever before, and many are realizing the signs have been there maybe longer than they realized. So we are thrilled to welcome Corie Wightlin, an executive functioning coach, educator, and mindfulness facilitator, here to share why ADHD looks so different in women compared to men, and why it seems to be on the rise, and what you can do to make life feel more manageable. But as always, before we do, let's have my lovely friends and co-hosts, Lorraine and Cynthia, introduce themselves. Lorraine?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lorraine Kime. I'm an empowerment and mindset wellness coach, guiding women to live authentically through self-discovery and self-healing. Welcome.
Nice.
Hi, and I'm Cynthia Penner, a menopause coach and author of the Menopause Map book series, and I guide women through the wonderful, sometimes wild world of menopause. My focus is helping women navigate this season of life with confidence through the knowledge of what the heck is going on in her body and hormones. And I am so thrilled to have you here today, Corie, as one of my sons struggled with ADHD, and I know a few of my friends later in life have been diagnosed also.
Mhm.
Thank
Exactly. So it absolutely touches all of us. So this is a great conversation, right? So let's dive in with Corie and with today's topic. So Corie, thanks so much for being here. Can you start by sharing a bit about who you are, what you do, and what led you to start working with ADHD clients?
Yes. So I'm thrilled to be here and talk to all three of you. I feel like the intersectionality of what we all do is pretty powerful and awesome. So
Absolutely.
I am an ADHD executive functioning coach, and I say executive functioning along with ADHD because I have a lot of folks that come to me that don't have an official diagnosis,
Mhm.
but are struggling with all of those executive functioning pieces that do affect ADHDers. So you don't have to have an official diagnosis to need support.
Right.
And so, what I do with clients, and my youngest client right now is 10, and my oldest client right now is 70. So, really, of all ages, is I support my clients in figuring out what it is that is challenging in this world for their brain. Our world and our society and our communities are really built for a very neurotypical brain. And
Yes.
those of us with ADHD, me included, don't necessarily fit into that box. So there's a lot of shame that comes with that. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of, self-doubt. And so I help people figure out the systems and routines and strategies that actually do work for their brains and implement them. And then you mentioned that I'm a mindfulness facilitator. Then we also build in a lot of mindfulness tools. We know from neuro research that mindfulness supports ADHD, and it all supports self-compassion, being able to understand what we're thinking when we're thinking, what we're feeling when we're feeling. And that way we can kind of create this whole treatment and this whole support system
Nice.
to go forward.
Love it.
Wow.
That's awesome. Good.
So with what I want to share, what you just said was, I ended up homeschooling my boys because of my son. So the link with the ADHD ends up being it's kinesthetic learner, right? Like what you were saying, like the world is built for phonetic, right? For phonetic learning, for phonetic reading, for in life and work and school. And so I ended up homeschooling him so that I had someone come in and teach me how to teach kinesthetically.
Yeah.
And you know, good on him. Like we figured out ways to do it. And so he ended up graduating on the honor roll because we were able to change the way he was taught so that he learned the way he needed to, right? And so I'm very excited that that you're doing this now, because back in the day, I mean, I'm older, so this was a long time ago. They didn't have that type of
No.
coaching. Like you were on your own. Like I had to piece together from everywhere to try to figure out how he could feel successful, right?
And that's
And
a big
so,
piece of it, right? That feeling successful and feeling like you can do it. Because I think a lot of, especially teens that then become adults, and I know we're talking about adults, but they bring all of that baggage with them, right? They get this message over and over: you can't do it. Everyone else can do this. Why can't you just turn in your homework? Why can't you just pay attention? Why can't you just finish
oh,
this? Right?
Yep.
And then it's this self-story that we tell ourselves, and it becomes this shame spiral and this failure feedback loop. And so it's a lot of it is exactly what you said, Cynthia, is interrupting that failure feedback loop and reimagining and storytelling in our own minds so that we believe it.
yeah.
For sure.
Beautiful.
And doesn't that just save a whole lot of heartache? I mean, for the children themselves to feel like they're dumb or they're incapable of learning or they can't just do anything right. And then for the parents to feel this frustration, thinking that their children just aren't listening to them or they won't do what they
Yes.
say. And then you have this horrible shame, guilt, self-defeating cycle. And it's just devastating because I have 6 children and I did not homeschool, but I did supplement school most of my kids because either I didn't like the way they were being taught or I just thought there was more they needed to do. And none of my children are diagnosed, and neither am I, but I have always known that I am neurodivergent. I have all the symptoms.
Yeah.
And so I did teach in my way what I considered being something that you could learn either easily, more beneficial or whatever. And so I supplemented my child's learning and all of them. And for me, I had to do the same thing for myself. As Cynthia was saying, there wasn't a whole lot of that around. So, 50 years ago when I was 12 or 13, and then when my children, who are now in their 30s and 40s and 20s and all over the map, there wasn't a whole lot of this, especially all together, like what you're doing. So it is really wonderful to have this conversation, and it's so current because we're finding so many of us are falling into that category, yet we're all unique, even amongst the neurodivergent. So what would when someone is trying to tell the difference for themselves between, okay, this is menopause, or I'm not getting the right nutrition, or I'm not moving enough, versus do I need an assessment? And it could be something more than this midlife that we're going through. What do you suggest?
It's a really great question, and one that I get a lot from potential clients. And so there's a couple things that I say. The first one is that if all of a sudden you're hitting perimenopause or a big stress in your life, and all of the systems and tools that you had in place before just aren't working anymore, there's a good chance that an assessment will support you. And the reason I say that is women especially become very, very high maskers. So a lot of ADHD women are overachievers. They would be considered type A. They would be considered people pleasers. They're the ones that are on all of the committees, but inside they're like running like a hamster on a wheel. Maybe their house is a mess. Maybe they forget appointments, but they could hold it together. And then something big happens in your life, whether it's hormonal changes or you all of a sudden aren't be able to get enough sleep. And it feels like even those tools you use just aren't supportive anymore. It doesn't matter what you use. That might be a big sign that there is something else and that the masking is just not being helpful anymore. Not all the time. We know that hormonal changes, sleep disruptions, not eating right, everything you said, Cynthia, that also is a big component. But another thing is women are often misdiagnosed with depression or anxiety before ADHD.
Yep.
So I get a lot of clients who were treated for depression or anxiety when these big moments happened. And then the anxiety meds didn't quite work, or they did start moving their bodies and eating well and doing all the things, and it still isn't quite working. And that's because we're not treating the right challenges. We're not giving them the right support. So those are the two kind of big. If you have been diagnosed with anxiety or depression, and you don't feel like that is enough, or you don't feel like it's still helping your organization, your memory, your prioritization, your ability to motivate, and or the things that used to be able to hold you up have just collapsed and you have no way to do it. Like you have no way to motivate to go work out, or you have no way to motivate to even make a healthy meal, then it might be that you've been masking your ADHD.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. My son has this as well, and I
Okay.
homeschooled him for a small time, not
Okay.
the whole school year time, but yeah,
Mhm.
grades 7 and 8, I believe it was.
Okay.
But I homeschooled him for other reasons. He has other physical disabilities, but
Okay.
yeah, but he absolutely has ADHD, and it
Yeah.
turns out my stepdaughter does as well. She's just, and again, she was never diagnosed, more self-diagnosis. She's at that age, she's 35, right? Hitting that, all the hormones are going crazy, and she's realizing, you know what? I think I've had this right from high school or earlier, right? So
Yeah.
I think I'm going to ask her after, so I won't bring it up yet. But my
Okay.
one question is, what is the difference between the ADD and ADHD? Is it just the hyperactivity, or is there more to it?
Yeah, great question. So on the DSM-5, we actually just diagnose ADHD now. We don't diagnose ADD anymore.
Okay,
And that's
nice.
because all types of ADHD have some hyperactive component. It's just how it shows up. So now we
Okay.
diagnose ADHD as ADHD inattentive, which used to be the
Mm,
ADD, and
okay.
ADHD hyperactive or ADHD combo. So there's three
Interesting.
different kinds. And how that shows up is the inattentive ADHD are usually folks who are little, like you would consider them, they get in their own world, or they're very forgetful, or
Uh-huh.
they're kind of like a mess around them, but they don't have that like bouncing off the walls, like always moving.
Yeah.
But where the hyperactivity comes is in their brain. So they have ruminating thoughts, hyperactive thoughts. They
Yes.
can't control their thoughts. So I call it hypo attention, right? So
Yeah.
they're like just attention is everywhere. So instead, if
Right.
they're
Yep.
like this, if I was speaking with you right now and I was in hypo attention, I'd be noticing that bird out the window and I would be noticing the condensation on my glass and I would be thinking about, oh, wait, did I have lunch today? I don't know if I had lunch today. And I'd be kind of
Okay.
all over the place, right? We're
Yeah, that's something.
hyperactive and hyperactive presentation, or your like kind of classic ADHD that we think about.
Hmm.
Always moving, always talking really fast, always interrupting, always blurting out, right? Needing to
Okay.
like can't sit still. And then the lovely combination, which is me, you get both of both worlds. So you have the
Nice.
thoughts and the movement. So that's
Wow.
kind of the
Yeah.
difference now. And inattentive women tend to be inattentive, not always. We used to say that all girls are inattentive and all boys are hyperactive. We know that is definitely not
Mm,
the case now.
right. Yeah.
But women tend to show up more inattentive. And so that is part of why women aren't diagnosed as often
Hmm.
because they get that like, oh, like they're just really spacey or they don't live up to their potential, or if they could just try
Can't focus.
harder, or
Yeah.
they're more focused on other things. Like they just all they do is doodle all day. And so it's not
Yeah.
that classic presentation of moving all the time and not being.
Right.
And
Wow,
so
crazy.
and on the questionnaire that most practitioners use to diagnose, it's still very heavy on hyperactive and risk-taking behaviors. And so even then, even if you look at the questionnaire, sometimes kids that you're like, oh, this kid is ADHD. Or I've had adult clients too that are like, I'm sure it doesn't even on the questionnaire. So
Interesting.
yeah, so it's all about that.
Is it the inattentiveness that causes, because my dad absolutely has it, my son absolutely, and my stepdaughter, and they lose everything. Like my kids lost bank cards every week. I think my stepdaughter, she got up to 17 bank cards she had to get replaced. Like, what is that part of just the unorganization? What causes that?
There's so many pieces of executive dysfunction that lead to that, right? So first one is organization, right? So I don't have a hub where I always put my bank card. And the next one is finishing through what we start. We ADHDers are notorious for being 80%ers. We're really good at that first 80%, right? And so that even includes that, right? Like you pay for something. They're like, oh, I'm done paying. And then you walk out of the store, right? And no, you're not done. So I even talk to clients all the time about what does done look like? We got to retrain our brain. Done doesn't mean that I have the bag. Done means the bank card is back in the safe spot. And we need to practice that. And the third one is working memory. So working memory is what I describe as working memory is like a big Post-it note in your brain. Input comes in, it gets encoded on the Post-it note, and then your brain gets to decide what to do with it. Do I need to execute something? Do I need to put this in my long-term memory? Do I need to organize it, mentally organize it? And unfortunately, that is an executive function. And so ADHDers have terrible working memory. Right. And so the input comes in of, oh, I need to put my bank card away. And your brain's like, that's not very interesting. I don't really care about that. So that like poofs away. And then you don't even remember where you left it because it never went onto your working memory. So then even if it was 10 minutes later and you go, wait, where's my bank card? I don't know. It could be anywhere. Right. And that's really funny you say that because guess what I have to do? I have to call my credit card company because I've lost my credit card for the third time in the last 2 years. So
see, isn't that something? Yeah. My dad's the same, my son's the same, and my stepdad. They're all exactly boom, boom. It's like, wow. It's very,
but you can still do the task well. Like I found with mine, it was like at even as a young age, it wasn't like, okay, go get on your pajamas, brush your teeth, and pick a book for me to read. He'd get halfway down the hallway and just stop and just stand there because all three left. So it was like, and I would just say his name, look at mommy, look at mommy. He'd look at me. As soon as I had his attention, it was like, go get on your pajamas. And he did amazing at it. And then it was like, okay, now you looking at mommy? Kate, go brush your teeth. Amazing at it. It was just learning how to give him the one thing at a time and learning that I may be able to say to my other son all three at the same time and he can do. It's just learning the differences. But when I was researching this, Corie, one thing that stands out is ADHD and fibromyalgia diagnoses are on the rise, right? Which is astounding to me because they're both linked with the nervous system. So with ADHD, it's about regulating attention and impulses, right? The memory, the executive. With fibromyalgia, it's about processing pain. So can you help us understand how these two conditions overlap when it comes to the nervous system?
Yes. So I think this is really interesting. And, I also think that it is not as researched as it probably should be because it mostly happens to women, right? So we know that unfortunately women's diagnoses are not necessarily as researched as they probably should be. But from what I know, right, it's all about your brain processing information in a different way than the majority of the brain. So we call them neurotypical. I don't think there is such thing as a neurotypical brain, right? We're all different, but the majority of the brain's how we process the information. And so with ADHD, you're right. It's very much about that organization of thoughts. but it's also how we process our neurotransmitters, which is the same in fibromyalgia, right? It's how our brain interprets those, what we need in our body, and then gives us that response. And so in ADHD, it's okay, do I need more dopamine? Yes or no? And our brain sometimes is like, nah, I'm good. Even though you're like, no, but I have to do the thing. And our brain's like, yeah, that doesn't sound interesting or fun or new. So no, I'm good. And so when you think about pain management, right, it's the same kind of idea. Your brain is like, oh, we're in pain. We're in pain. We have to take care of it right now. And so it reacts with this big reaction and this big response. And so what I have found, and again, I feel like I would love more research on this, but what I have found is it kind of comes back to mindfulness and awareness and being able to think about, okay, how is my brain processing right now? What do I need to do to take care of myself? How can I get into that green zone of regulation, whether it's pain management or motivation or emotional regulation? And then just practicing that over and over and over and over for a lifetime, really. And just that awareness, and then figuring out what it is that works for your body and your nervous system. Because I guarantee what works for me probably doesn't work for the three of you. And what works for Tracey doesn't work for Cynthia.
Yeah.
And so figuring out, and I think with both diagnoses, there's this sense that there's this blanket way to help.
Yeah.
Right? This is how you help. This is what you do for fibromyalgia. This is what you do for ADHD. And unfortunately, I don't think that's always helpful because it usually isn't the way. There's not one way and there's not one program. And so I think it feeds into that very much that shame spiral and that self-deprecating and self-hating, right? Like physically not liking yourself and your body, which is then again totally disrupts our nervous system and makes things worse.
Yep.
So I don't know if I completely answered the question because I feel like I talked around it a little bit.
No, you know what? You really did. I like the way that Lorraine had called it neurodivergent.
Yes.
I used to call it learning differences because I really didn't like the word disability. Like, they were like, well, he's got a learning disability. No. It's a learning difference. But I really like how Lorraine said learning divergent. Like, I really like that. And I like Corie having this conversation with you because I never put my son on the medication because, like I said, I brought him home to homeschool him. So I figured out the ways to support him. I didn't have to have him sitting quietly in a room of 30 students, right? But that seems to be the way with both diagnoses, even though they both stem to the nervous system, is the medications, right? And like you said, if the medications don't work, which the stimulants, right? Then, like you said, like antidepressants, like people with ADHD or fibromyalgia are going on antidepressants. Like what our system is broken.
Like you're not depressed.
You're
it
right.
sucks that you're in pain, but you're not depressed. Like not chemically anyway.
Right. The depression comes from the constant pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But
Like, that's the thing with fibromyalgia.
So
yeah.
That's what they're thinking. We have a pill for everything.
Everything, right?
Right.
Exactly.
What I do say about medication for ADHD, for some folks, it is amazing. All three of my kids have ADHD. Two are on ADHD meds, one isn't. And those days that they don't, they're old enough now, they're 16 and 13, they tell me like, today was so hard at school. And they have all the tools and strategies, right? They live with me. Like and however, it is not for everyone. And my like silly little slogan is pills don't teach skills.
Oh, I love that.
Right. Yeah. So, but pills can help you access the skills. So if you're totally dysregulated and you can't even access the skills because you're just emotionally dysregulated and physically dysregulated, then the pills can help bring you online a little bit more so that you can build those skills. Nice. But what I see too often, and I see this in adults too, is they get the AD diagnosis, they start taking the stimulant, and then they're like, okay, my brain isn't as buzzy, but I don't know how to do life, right? I don't know how to do this. And so and then I have a lot of clients that then either go off the meds or really dial them down, because once they have those tools and those systems, they start to feel more on top of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think
Very
that
good, very
it's,
good.
I don't think it's a one size fits all for meds at all.
Mhm.
No. They have their purpose for some, right?
Yes,
Until you can get
exactly.
your stuff working for sure. As I was going to
Exactly.
say, the thing with fibromyalgia, because again, I had that as well, right? It's
Okay.
the the thing that, because it doesn't get diagnosed much, because if you check inflammation, it's not an inflammation disease, right? So
Right.
that was my big thing. It's like, well, my inflammation was fine, so you're not hurting. Like, well, yeah, I am, because I have the autoimmune disease, which I just found out is Hashimoto's, right? Which it all ties into.
Right.
And so all your nerves are firing off and everything is in pain. And so you have to get that under control. Again, the nervous system, right? And that's, I think, why a lot of people get the misdiagnosis, or, they think it's in their head, because it's not an inflammation, which people think pain, inflammation, right? And it's not that same thing. So yeah, anyway, that was all I want to say about
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
think
Thank you for
Lorraine
sharing
wanted.
that.
Yeah, no
Tracey,
problem.
did you want to set up the segment before I answer, or do you want to just go on?
Yeah, segment one, like I know Lorraine just asked, or Lorraine, sorry, Cynthia just asked her question about the ADD and fibromyalgia, but yeah, no, the second section here is why this works, right? So there's so many options out there. Therapy, what we've talked about, medications, coaching, lifestyle changes, and it can all feel extremely overwhelming. What what is about what about your approach, Corie? Do you find like focusing on the nervous system regulation, mindfulness, and small compassionate shifts to create transformation that truly works when so many other approaches fall short?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I think the big feedback I get from my clients is I have been in therapy for so many years, and just like 3 or 4 sessions, it's like life changing. And therapy definitely has its place. I highly encourage my clients when they're working with me to also have a therapist. Lots of stuff comes up that I am not equipped or prepared to support you with. So I definitely agree that therapy is really supportive. And what the difference is I help people really understand what ADHD is, what's happening in your brain and your body. So
Nice.
it doesn't feel like this amorphous thing that just is like kind of taking over. I also always start with regulation. So we always start with physical and emotional regulation. So one thing that's kind of misunderstood about ADHD is some folks think that it's just an attention or focus challenge, but it's as much, if not more, an emotional regulation challenge. So our prefrontal cortex is where all of the executive function lives. One of that is emotional regulation. In ADHDers, it's very, very weak. So we have big reactions to things and big emotional challenges. So if we can't first figure out how to ride those waves in a way that is compassionate to ourselves, that is helpful, that's responsive rather than reactive, then it really doesn't matter what tools and strategies we put into place, because we're just living in fight or flight. And most ADHDers, I would say, especially women, are in fight or flight all the time. It's
Yeah.
just reaction, 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 reaction. So we know in
Right.
our fight or flight, we can't think clearly, we can't learn, we can't put in new habits, right? So that's the first thing that I start with, and I do it in a very ADHD friendly way. And what I mean by that, it is very tangible. It's very this and then this, kind of what you were saying, Cynthia. We can't say, okay, you're going to do these 10 things every day. You're going to remember that, right? And you're going to go do those 10 things. It's very bite size and it's very impactful. So we start with, okay, what is the biggest emotional or dysregulation challenge you're facing right now? Okay, let's put in a little piece of that puzzle, and you're just going to practice it every day. And then once we have that emotional and physical regulation foundation, then I start to say, okay, if you could think of any system in the world to do to help you with this problem that you're facing, whether it is, keeping your calendar up to date or making dinner every night for your family or getting to work, like just even getting to work, what would you do? And we think of something, maybe it's something really outrageous or something nobody else has tried. And then we walk through, okay, why will this work? What motivation are you going to borrow, right? So if this is, how are you going to get motivated to do it? And also, what is your falter plan? Because I think what happens, not I think, I know what happens with ADHD. We do it once or twice because we have that novelty, which gives us all that dopamine and serotonin. We're really excited. And then just as fast as we get novelty with ADHD, it goes away. So third day we don't do it, fourth day we don't do it, and then we're like, I'm a failure. I guess I can't make dinner for my family. DoorDash it is every night. So that falter plan is really important because, life is an experiment. It's not a test. So we experiment and then we say, oh, wow, okay, that didn't work for your brain. Why didn't it? What was going on? What came up? So what do you think will work for your brain then? And then we mold these routines or systems and we take the time to put them in place. And then I say it's a snowball. Once you figure out what works for you for one or two things, then we just get to say, okay, let's try it over here. Let's try it over here. And the more success we have, the more excited we get and the more regulated we are. So it really is that cycle. So I think that's where I'm different. And I'm also I'm not a one size fits all. I don't have a program. Every brain, like we talked about before, every brain is different. Every person's story is different. Every person's background is different. Yeah. And so anybody listening to this that's looking for an ADHD coach, that would be my one thing to ask. Is this just a program that you're going to walk me through, or are you going to meet me where I am, and we're going to figure out specifically what works for me? So I think that's why when I work with clients, we have success, because it really is them. They're driving the train, and I just get to be there to make sure we stay on track and like the coal's put in and all of that good stuff.
Very cool. I love that.
Thank you.
Cynthia,
I totally relate to that, Corie. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to finish your question, Cynthia?
No. I'm sorry. I got awestruck with what Corie was saying because I never looked at it from the emotional point of view. And listening to her talk, I literally was placing myself or my son into that mode, and I'm listening and I'm thinking, I never thought of the emotional side, and for you to say, like, as a coach, it's not one, like you're driving the train, like you're not driving the train, you're giving him the coal, you're giving him the things, and I don't want to keep talking about him. I know he doesn't listen to the podcast, but that's what I'm not saying his name.
Listen to this episode.
I've got 4 sons, so you don't know which one it is. But like the emotional as an adult, like as a child, we're trying to do the learning, right? Like let's do the school, let's do the reading, let's do the writing, let's do the, even in puberty, like if you feel like you're about to do something that you're going to get in trouble for, remove yourself from the room and just like go off on your own, because you're going to get in trouble if you do something to one of your brothers, because you can't do something wrong and say, well, it's just, I felt the storm inside of me. Right. So yeah, I just got awestruck. So now my brain is like, now I'm in 2 different places, but let me go back into the podcast. So a common thread that I see with my son or my friends that have been diagnosed is stress makes or seem to make the systems worse, right? So sleep is disrupted, nervous system feels stuck on overdrive, right? And so respecting the role that medication plays while also exploring the complementary or natural strategies that support long-term wellness is exactly what you're talking about, Corie, right? Like if you need the medication, take the medication, but let's support it. So pills don't teach you skills, right? So it's that combination. It's very, I'm in awe of what you're saying.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is something that that's not talked about, the emotional regulation piece,
Yeah.
but it is. And on top of that, most ADHD well, you talked about this a little bit, right, Cynthia? The impulse control, right? Just
Yeah.
remove yourself. But all too often, our brains are really, really fast. And we don't have that stop button in our prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
So we
Yep.
do it, and then we're like, oh no, I should have stopped myself, but it's already happening. And so one of the things that I work with adults and kids is I call it the fast forward remote. So we have to build that system into our brain. We don't have it naturally. People with ADHD don't learn from natural consequences because we
No.
can't remember it. It doesn't matter at that moment in time. Our brain is just like, I want that dopamine. I don't care what happened. And so we have to build in that fast forward remote where we physically, I have my clients physically do a pause button. So mine is I put two hands on my chest and I take a really deep breath. And then I think through, okay, if I do this right now, what are the consequences? Good, bad, or neutral, right? Consequences aren't always bad. Okay, what if I make a different choice, like walk out of the room? What are the consequences then? And we have to literally train our brains to do that. And so that's a thing, that's an example of pills don't teach skills. What the pills can do is it can help slow you down a little bit so that you can practice that skill. But the pill isn't going to take away the impulse control. It's going to slow it down a little bit so you can go, okay, pause. Do I really want to hit my brother right now? What's going to happen if I do that? And then sometimes you're like, yeah, I really do.
Yeah, he did.
But you do it out of choice rather than this impulse,
Right.
or then later you feel really, really bad about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
funny because, yeah, my stepdaughter, and my son, they're the exact opposite of that. So they don't care. Like they just put it as like, meh. That's it, meh. I hear you. Everything is meh, right?
Meh.
So, and they're still, they're 35, they have their own families, and all hell can be breaking loose. They're like, meh. Like they're stressed, extremely stressed, but they just don't get that where they're freaking out and reacting is just very low key, like they just don't care, but they really, really do, right? But it's funny how they keep it at that level. Yeah, I just find that
are
interesting.
they inattentive? Like would they have been diagnosed with ADD?
Yeah, Amanda wasn't, and again, it was way back years
Right.
ago, right? Cody
Yeah.
was just with the AD, or my son was, Cody was ADD, right?
Yeah.
So,
And that's
but yeah,
definitely that's a challenge with ADD, ADHD, inattentive kiddos and adults, right? I
right,
work with a lot of adults that are like, everyone thinks I'm like super apathetic and that I don't really I don't care. But
right,
inside, it's
right, yeah,
but
exactly.
I don't know how to process that. My brain and nervous system doesn't process that in the same way as other
Mm-hmm.
people. So
Mm-hmm.
it looks like I don't care. Right. And I
Right.
get that a lot with when I work with teens or college students, the parents or the teachers or professors will be like, I don't think they care about their grades. And then I talk to them and
Right.
I'm like, of course I care about my grades.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right. But I don't know how to process that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I see that 100% with them.
And
Interesting.
then it usually comes out in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. The stress or anxiety. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, the thing
Yeah.
is that we talk a lot about kids and we have this ability to have more compassion for children because
Yeah.
they're young, because they might be immature, because they can't help themselves, they haven't built these skills. But I found, as being someone who I'm pretty sure I have ADHD along with all kinds of other letters,
Uh-huh.
am probably more inattentive.
Uh-huh.
I have my moments where I can be very hyperactive, but I'm probably more attentive, probably get more of that. I'm not reacting as expected as I should be or whatever. But we get a lot less sympathy for the fact that we're dealing with things the way that we do. And I was reading your notes and you talked about time blindness and procrastination. I mean, two of my big pillars here.
Same,
And
Lori. Same. Feel ya.
Yes. And so sometimes people can, like my husband, he's very sweet. Sometimes he can, just giggle about it. And when I'm here in my office and I'm in the zone, so to speak, I couldn't tell you what day it was, what time it was, whether I need to go to the bathroom or anything. So he's very sweet to come in and remind me, hand me water, remind
Oh,
me to go to the restroom,
Oh my God.
remind me to eat something.
So
And
real, so
but
real.
it's not always that way. People, especially when you're an adult, they're just like, why are you always late? Or why haven't you gotten that done? Or why? I mean, even the ladies know I'm always late to jump on Zoom. I'm at least 5 minutes late, 6 minutes late. No matter what I do, I can't seem to determine the proper time to give myself to do something. I'm always just halfway done. So with
I have a
with
story about that.
all of with all of that in mind, have you, and we're all unique. I mean, all three of us always talk about customizing, personalization, how all of us are different. And there is no one size fits all. We're always trying to do the small steps and pay attention to yourself, be aware, be mindful. This is all because you are unique and need to discover these things on your own and learn how to fit them into a routine. But have you found a basic strategy or understanding that has proven more effective in managing these kinds of adult issues that we tend to have that are so much more timely? We've got work, we've got projects, we have team members, things like that.
Yes. So two big things that stood out to me, right, is the hyper focus when we get into that. So it's opposite than the hypo focus that I talked about. It's
Yeah.
that like tunnel vision. And if you don't have ADHD, it's really hard to explain because you're like, what do you mean you didn't go to the bed? What do you mean you peed your pants? Like, what? You're like, I didn't even feel it. Like, I don't even know. What do you mean you haven't eaten in 8 hours and you've completed that 10 million Lego tower? I don't know, right?
Yeah.
It is a bizarre, bizarre, bizarre feeling. And so the first thing that I start when folks are talking about that hyper focus, because in adults, what ends up happening is it really affects relationships. It affects health, right? You don't eat for days. Or, I have so many clients that were like, I don't remember the last time I drank water because and that's a whole other topic is ADHDers and our nervous systems and what we experience in eating and drinking and things like that. But so what the first thing is that we have to disrupt that every so often. So if you are going to do a task that you tend to hyper focus on, and you have to start to pay attention, right? So Lorraine, you start to pay attention when your husband's coming in and it's like, you haven't eaten in 12 hours, right?
Yeah.
So what is this task that I'm doing? And it's usually something high interest or high novelty or highly challenging. So interest, novelty, and challenge and urgency. So or you have a deadline. Those are our big four. So it's usually one of those. Beforehand, you decide how you're going to disrupt it. So you might have your husband come in, right? You might need an outside person to come in, put his hand on your shoulder and say, "Hey, I need you to stand up for a minute and come to the kitchen with me. Let's go get a drink of water." Right? So you'd say ahead of time. If you're in an office, you can do that with a coworker. Say, "Hey, can you like come like every hour and just remind me to get up for a minute?"
Use Alexa. That's what I do.
Yes. Or I was going to say, use Alexa, use a timer, use, if you're someone that can listen to music while you're doing work, make playlists that are 45 minutes long. And then when the playlist stops, you're like, okay. And it doesn't have to be like a whole 20-minute, like I'm going to do yoga, or it can literally be standing up, looking away, taking a drink of water, checking in with yourself. I have a client right now who really hyper focuses at work. And she sets 90-minute timers. And every 90 minutes, she gets up and she asks herself, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Have I gone to the bathroom? Do I have a headache? And then and sometimes she's like, no, I'm good. And just keeps going. Other times she's like, oh, wait, I'm really thirsty and I have a headache. I should probably get up and get outside. And so the other thing is also then having a list of what questions you can ask yourself and what your needs might be and how you can take care of those. Because then when we're in that hyper focus, our brain is going to fight us. Our brain's going to say, no, this feels really good. This dopamine is awesome. Don't do it. Don't do it. And so having a list ahead of time, like get outside, drink water, make a tea, call a friend, whatever it might be, so that you can stop and be like, okay, I'm going to do one of these things. You don't have to make a decision. So that's kind of a big overview of hyperfocus.
Right.
Obviously, all of you have to figure out, okay, what works for me to stop? What kind of things do I need to do to regulate, right? How long do I need? So those would be the kind of things I would work on, but that's a general. Time blindness. We need to make our time outside of our heads. If you ask an ADHDer how much time has passed, they're going to never be able to tell you. You ask them what time it is, they're never going to be able to tell you, right? Like the sun can be down. I can be like, I don't know, 2 p.m.? Well, I have no idea. And so we have to make time outside. So analog clocks, digital clocks don't work for us. Have analog clocks in your space. I wear an analog wristwatch. We have to see time passing. Using other things, like I'm someone that can actually, it helps me focus to have like a really bad TV show on, like a really bad reality TV show that I'm just kind of background noise. So I use that to help. Oh, it's been 45 minutes. That episode's up. Okay. And remind myself, have I done 45 minutes worth of work? Right. Also, even for adults, they make these timers that are like pie chart timers. So you set it, that's half an hour, then like half the timer is red then, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I recommend, I usually have one in here. It's not in here right now. I think probably one of my kids took it, but I recommend having those. You can get little ones all over your house. And so, if you're in the bathroom and you're like, oh, I've got to get dressed. Okay, that should take me half an hour. You do that because what happens is we say, oh, I'm going to get dressed. It should take half an hour. And then 45 minutes later, we just have pants on and we're like scrolling on our phone and we're like, wait, what happened? So that helps.
So true.
Oh my God, it is.
Right?
I wasn't even going to wear this blouse today.
You did put pants on though, right?
But I ran out of time.
You were going to change the blouse before we started recording too. And
I know.
Oh my God.
I love the blouse. You look beautiful. You're good.
So nice, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
It's so funny.
So those are some other ways. There's so many different strategies, but those are some like general ones that we would start with is making time outside of you, whether it's music or shows or digital clocks or timers that you can see. Not a timer where you're like, set the timer for 20 minutes. Because if you ask Alexa to do that, guess what? The timer goes off and you're like, how did that 20 minutes? Yeah. So for needing to see time passing, it has to be something. I have a client who got a clock that he can write he could use whiteboard markers on. And he does that. Like if he has something, he'll say like, okay, at this time, this needs to happen. At this time, this needs for his day. So he can see, okay, I have an hour until I have to be at the dentist. Am I ready for the dentist? Because at 4, I have to be there. So that's the way he has made it visual for himself.
Nice.
So those are just some. I have lots of ideas, but those are
great. No, thank you for that.
Yeah.
My mom used to, because my dad was late, always late for everything. So it didn't matter if we had an appointment. I remember one time we were going to get a family photos done, and the appointment was say 4 o'clock. She told him it was at 3, right? So he showed up at 4. And she always did that. Just put the due date or due time, whatever, was a good hour and a half ahead. And then he always showed up on time. So a little trick that might get your husband to help you, Lorraine.
Yeah. I've had parents that have done that, but then the kids are so smart then they're like, oh, she's always adding half an hour. So I actually
Yeah.
have another, like,
Yeah.
and they're
Dad
like,
was, I
"It
think,
doesn't
so
work
busy when he
anymore."
didn't pay enough attention.
Yeah,
He just
exactly.
showed up. No, but he didn't know. Yeah.
All
Really
all
funny.
those work only for a short time. I have all the clocks in my house set 5 minutes
I used to
ahead,
do that.
but
Yeah.
I know that I do
Yep.
that. So it doesn't always work,
So
but
set them,
sometimes it does.
but set them at
Because
different times, like
yeah.
10 minutes, 15, right? So you never know. It's like, well, geez, I don't
Yeah,
know
how
how
much
much
did I
time.
do
I
this
gotta hurry
one?
up.
Right. But then that would frustrate me, and then I would get
Yeah.
into the hyper focus. You know what I mean? And it
Yeah,
would
yeah,
end.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I've got yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. All right, we're getting close on time here, so let's carry on. I don't think you answered all the other questions that I had pretty much there. So,
Okay.
um, okay, so the next, how listeners can use this. So, for women listening right now who think, wow, this really sounds like me, like I think we're all doing, right?
Yeah.
What's one or two simple tools they can start today to help them calm their nervous system and feel a little more in control?
So the first thing is I always say, figure out a calendaring system or to-do list system that works for you. I
Nice.
am like a perpetual planner collector, and I really like those planners for about 3 days. And then I'm like, oh, like I mean, I need to make like a Instagram post of my like 50 planners.
Oh.
So for so long, I tried to force myself into that because I was like, oh, I have ADHD. I have to have a planner. It doesn't work for me. So I had to figure out what does. And for me, it's a color-coded Google, like digital
Oh.
Google. And it's really interesting because most of my other stuff is analog. I'm a note taker, but I needed that color-coded so I could see this is what this time is. This is what this time is. This is what this is. That's what works for me. That's not going to work for all brains. So playing around, if your calendaring system or your productivity system isn't working for you, then it's not working for you. And that's
Right.
okay. So figuring out, do you like digital or do you like analog? Do you need something that's daily or do you need something weekly or monthly? Do you have a time in your week that's blocked off that is your go-to time to utilize it, to fill it out, to complete it? Or are you someone that needs to do it on the fly? Like I used to have that time and I would sit there that time and be like, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do right now, but oh, I used this half an hour. Now I'm someone that knows, like as soon as something comes up, I have to stop what I'm doing and I have to put it in my calendar, even if I have to pull over on the side of the road, because otherwise it'll never get in there. So that's
Hmm.
finding what works for you. And then also finding a to-do list system that works for you. So I have a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, I make to-do lists all the time. I don't do it. And I flip over the page and I just remake that.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
creative, gamify it, make it something that's fun for you, make it something that you're gonna want to do. And if you're looking at that to-do list, however it might be for you, and you are completely paralyzed, you're like, I don't know where to start. There's the saying, right, of eat the frog first, do the hardest thing first. Please don't do that if you have ADHD because your brain is going to fight you till the end of time on that. It's like,
Mm.
no. So we know that action leads to momentum and momentum leads to motivation. So in ADHD, you're probably not going to get motivated to do most of your things. You have to action first. So what I always say is, however you have that to-do list, whether it's a physical to-do list, whether it's on your notes, whether you have sticky notes on your wall, whether it's in a Google Doc, whether it's on your whiteboard on your fridge, however it might be, looking at if you're feeling paralyzed and do the very simple, easiest thing first. And if something doesn't feel simple or easy on that, break down something. So, for example, my mom is a quilter, and last week she's like, I have to finish this quilt for this exhibition, right?
Exhibition?
Exhibition, yeah.
Exhibition? Yeah.
Clearly, I'm not the artist in the family. And she was like, I just can't do it. And I said, well, what do you have to do? And she was like, I have to cut out 100 squares. And I was like, oh, of course you can't do that. Like, that sounds terrible. And she doesn't even have ADHD, right? And I was like, what is something you could do in the next 5 minutes? And she was like, oh, I could probably cut out 3 squares in 5 minutes. And I was like, why don't you do that and then send me a text back? So she sent me a picture of the 3 squares. And I was like, okay, what could you do in the next 15 minutes? And she's like, well, I'm kind of sick of cutting out squares. I think I'm going to sew these squares together. Perfect. Sew those squares together. And then she texts me back after 15 minutes and she's like, okay, I'm good to go now. I'm going.
Nice.
Because that action helped her, right? So if you're looking at your to-do list and it just feels overwhelming or paralyzing, pick one and break it into little tiny parts. I have a client right now and his morning it literally starts with open your laptop. And that sounds really silly, but he would sit down at his desk and just be completely paralyzed and just like so demotivated.
No.
And now it's open your laptop. And then it's open your email.
I see.
The first 2 emails, right? And he doesn't need it for the whole day, but he needs it for his first like 15 minutes of his day. And now his productivity is through the roof because he can get started. He can get out of the gate where before he was just kind of stuck on those starting blocks. So those are a couple things that I would think to do.
No, that's cool. Thank you so much.
That is amazing. It's at the beginning of our episode, Corie, you had said that like our intersections all kind of meet in the same place. And you're absolutely correct. Like after listening to everything, when I'm even working with a client or hormonal issues or insomnia, it is always like lean in and listen to what your body's telling you and then do what it needs. There's not one size fits all. So exactly what you're saying, like you're telling your clients lean in and do what works for you because not one thing isn't going to work for everybody. And so that's absolutely beautiful. And I mean, I never thought I had ADHD, but after this conversation, I think maybe I do.
Absolutely right.
Because when we're talking hyper
highly hereditary. So if your son has it, it gets it somewhere. Yeah. I don't know where, but
well, apparently it might be me. Because
I always say the apple doesn't even fall off the tree with ADHD. Like we're just all one big apple tree together. Like
but I'm a mixture. Like you grab a little bit of Lorraine. Like I can be hyper focused, and Lorraine, same thing. 12 hours are gone, and I'm looking around going, "Did I even eat today?" But then on the other hand, I could be having a difficult conversation with my husband, and I'll on one issue like he forgot to take the garbage out, and I start to talk about that, and all of a sudden it's like a freight train came through my mind and my voice got louder and I got just like whoosh, and this crazy mountain just threw up all over him about everything. And I got angry and angrier, and it wasn't even about the garbage by the end of the conversation. Like I just completely lost focus and went crazy.
And he's like, I thought we were talking about the garbage. I'll just go get it.
Yeah, like maybe 2 hours ago.
He's not coming back. He went for bread or something.
He's still walking down the street with the garbage can.
Right. Like, what the hell is that? Is it possible to outgrow or ever get rid of ADHD? Can you actually heal from that?
Very simply, no.
Okay.
The way that your brain is organized and processed is the way your brain organizes and processes.
Okay.
However, we can build these tools that make it feel like you don't have the challenges with ADHD.
Right.
And I think that's a really important message, especially for women, because women tend to become high maskers.
Yes.
Masking can be exhausting. It takes like 10 times the cognitive effort to mask. And so I hear this a lot. Well, I think I grew out of it. Like, no, you just got really good at masking and now you're exhausted and overwhelmed and you're in perimenopause. So you need to go see Cynthia because we figure that out. And so knowing that, no, you can't grow out of it and you can make it a lot easier. And if you are high masking, learning how to notice those masks and maybe not mask quite as much or only mask in certain situations can be really liberating. And then you can start to feel like, okay, well, what does work for me? Right. And then that can be really helpful.
Okay.
That's
awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay, so final takeaways here. So if you could leave every woman listening today with one empowering thought or tool to help them feel calm, my Alexa's going to go off, so I'm going to talk over her so you can't hear. It's telling me. Okay, sorry. if you could leave them with one empowering thought or tool to help them feel calmer, organized, or more capable. So, oh my goodness, hold on. I'm going to have to
I
redo
can't
this
even
part.
hear her. She's
I
Can't
can't
you?
hear her
no.
either. Nope.
Well, here I am yammering on for no reason. Sorry. I thought for sure you were going to hear what it was telling me. Okay. Back up. Okay. Here we go.
This
What's
is
something
the
everybody
best.
can take away from this?
Um, I think, what I would hope that someone would take away from this is there's a couple things. One, this is a big one. You're not broken. You probably are feeling like you're broken and you're feeling like it's like everyone else around you can do all the things and get all the things done and it seems seamless. One, that's probably not true. And two, you are not broken. You just are trying to use tools that don't work for your brain. And so figuring out supportive ways to help you figure out what works for your brain is going to make you feel so much more calm and clear and show up for yourself every day with so much more compassion. And that would be the second thing is building self-compassion. So reading a book on self-compassion, thinking about how you speak to yourself, thinking about how you treat yourself, thinking about how you show up for yourself, how you take care of yourself. And I don't mean just like going to get your nails done, but truly every day in those little moments, how you care for yourself can make a huge difference in your executive functioning. And so remembering those two things, I think is crucial for women, especially women that are feeling really challenged because of midlife or a big change or whatever might be happening.
Beautiful. Thank you. Nice. Lorraine, you had your final thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Corie. You've shared so much with us today. We've learned so many things, and it's so helpful to listen to someone who not only relates to what you're speaking of, you have personal knowledge, but that you have found ways to make it unique and individual because we all are. And I like to think of my neurodiversity as just another way that I express how unique I am. And so, I mean, we all don't want to be the same. We all don't want to think the same or have the same way of thinking. And so to me, it's just, hey, this is Lorraine brain, and so you've given us and our listeners so much to think about on all of these small steps we can take. And it serves as such a great reminder of how being aware of ourselves and how our mindset can be such powerful tools in helping us, move along and go down that path of self-healing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks, Corie, for being on our show. So I love about today's conversation is the reminder that whether it's ADHD or fibromyalgia or any challenge tied to the nervous system, none of it is all about weakness or failure. It's about how incredible our bodies are wired and how sometimes that wiring just needs extra support. Because as women, we usually feel wired and tired, right? So for some, it looks like medication. For others, it's lifestyle shifts. And often it's a combination. So what matters most is we keep learning, keep listening to our bodies, leaning in, and keep reminding each other that healing isn't one size fits all. We all deserve compassion and tools that help us flourish in our own unique way. So thank you, Corie.
Nice.
Very well said.
Well. Okay. So, wow. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and practical tools, Corie. This is fantastic. It was such a great conversation, and so many women need to hear it. So, please take a minute and let our listeners know how to get in touch with you, and if they want to more questions or check out your content, where do they go?
So my website is Wightlin, like my last name, coachingservices.com. So I have a lot of information on there. I also have a really active Instagram, which is at Wightlin Coaching Services. So I would love for you to join me there. And I have freebies, I have support. You can also go on my website and book a free connection call where we can just chat and see if coaching is something that would be helpful for you. And or I can answer questions. It doesn't have to be is coaching right? It could just be like, I have some questions based on the podcast. And, I would love to connect and be supportive in any way possible.
Excellent. Wonderful. 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 Okay. So as always, you'll find all of our individual contact information, including Corie's, in the show notes, as well as links to our shared Facebook and meetup groups. Please share this episode with anyone who may need it. That's pretty much everybody, I think. Like, subscribe, and let us know if there are any topics you'd love to cover in future episodes. We'd love to look into that. And until next time, remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, be happy, and be healthy.
Thanks for tuning in to the Happy Healthy Her podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with anyone you think would benefit from the topics we're discussing. We'd love to hear from you. DM us with your thoughts, comments, or ideas for future episodes. And don't forget to check out the links in our bio if you'd like to connect with any of us or learn more about what we do. Until next time, remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, be happy, and be healthy.